Spectacular Sunday, everyone. This is Pearly Almonte, your host for Faces of Resilience. My goodness, every single Sunday, every single time that I bring a guest, always excites me because I know that somebody's life is about to be transformed. Well, let's face it, something inevitable happens. Actually, just today, we lost one legendary game show host, Alec Trebek, to pancreatic cancer. It was a little bit longer lingering compared to many people who have pancreatic cancer, because I personally have lost a spouse to pancreatic cancer, and I lost her within 3 months from the time she was diagnosed. So oftentimes when we go through catastrophes in life such as this, whether it be an illness or death, it leaves us feeling so confused, so overwhelmed, and very frustrated, especially when we don't know what to do with the wishes that the person that we love actually wants. And also, where do we find all the paperwork or any documentation that may possibly impact their lives and their legacy? Well, today, that is all going to change because the lady that I have here right now is an expert in exactly that. Well, let me give you a little background of what she does. Well, okay, let's say it. Stacey Golden, I hope I say this right. Lisnock, yes? Stacey Golden Lisnock is actually the founder of Got It Together Now. Stacey spent the last 30 plus years in the financial services industry. As a certified financial planner, she witnessed how unprepared her clients were when a health issue or a death occurred. Sounds familiar. This needs this need prompted her to develop an online course, Got It Together, guiding individuals to get their important documents and personal information up to date, organized, and all in one place so no one knows when an illness, accident, or death will occur. Of course, when that happened, there is never a better time than now to get this all taken care of. Her course graduates, her course graduates can confidently say, I've got it together. Stacey's weekly podcast, Legacy Therapy, Planning Techniques for a Stress-Free Legacy, highlights real people telling personal stories of how poor planning impacted them as professionals, give them resources to help the audience avoid similar issues in the future. Welcome, welcome, Stacey. My goodness. I just met Stacey not too long ago through a networking group, and instantaneously we made a connection because learning exactly what you do, what she does, and what she can provide to change the lives of so many people. Me especially, I live here in an active adult community. Our mortality is oftentimes always a reminder, and we don't want to think about that because it feels almost morbid, right? But then again, what is that doing to our loved ones? Well, Stacy, when I heard her talk about this, I was instantaneously captivated by it because it impacted my life, and I know it will impact yours. She had me on her podcast where I was able to share also what I do to help people prepare for times like this, having life insurance with living benefits. Well, Stacy, welcome to Faith of Resilience.
Thank you so much, Furley. So happy to be here. I've been looking forward to it ever since you were on my podcast. So thank you.
Yeah, it was so. I love what you did with that because you were able to actually provide your audience with such great detail on how certain things, certain resources can actually impact their lives. I'm very interested to know because obviously what you do can transform so many lives. What is your backstory to this? What got you to basically create this online course after having a thriving career being a certified financial planner? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know if
Oh, I was asking you.
I
Like
yeah,
your story, that what propelled you to create this online course.
yeah. Well, just like so many other people that I'm finding, it's a health issue that happened to me that caused me to realize that I'm not ready either. So even though I've been in the field of financial services and I work with people, I mean, I had the basic things together, but I had a health issue in 2018. And so it just got me to thinking, if this gets any worse, or if I don't make it through, I was going to be leaving a big mess behind. And
Mm.
my biggest motivation around that is I don't want to put people out, and I don't want them to have to do things that aren't in their wheelhouse. So a lot of people, don't like paperwork, and they don't like dealing with bureaucracy and having things not go right. And so what I find happens to a lot of people is when they don't prepare in advance, it just causes the wheels of motion to go so much slower than if they had things actually set up to go smoothly. So things would be like having a life insurance policy as a good example. If you have everything set up properly, the payout is fairly quick. You do the forms, you submit them, you get a check. But if things don't go well, you end up in probate court, you end up with lawyers, you end up with this big fight. You end up having to prove a lot of things. Sometimes it could be even if a social security number was transposed, or a birth date was put in there wrong, or a name was misspelled. I mean, some of these things just end up dragging on and on and on. And people that don't have the patience for that, and they're already in a highly emotional state, right? Losing a loved one, it just aggravates the whole thing. And it's something that I want people not to have to endure when they're already going through a loss. And it's unfortunate when somebody has a diagnosis, like in your situation too, that if they have a diagnosis and you think that maybe they would do things to make things a little easier, but I'm finding that's not the case either. So even in the face of, an ultimate end where, like you mentioned, Alex Trebek today, I've seen people where they've known for like a year or even a year and a half, sometimes 2 years. It happened to a girlfriend of mine. She had, I think, 2 years, and she did nothing to set things up. And I think that there's just this mindset when you get to that phase in life that you just almost don't have the energy and the desire to go in to do those things because they're not natural anyway. It's this whole, like, you're in insurance, right? And so it's just something that the general population tends to stay away from.
When listening to you right now, I remember my late spouse. I lost her to pancreatic cancer within 8 months of our wedding day,
Mm.
and it happened very quickly. Basically, from the 3 months from the time of diagnosis, she was gone. But I remember going to the hospital for the first time, that when she was going to have the first surgery. She actually had three of them. I remember she was presented with the advance directive and the living will, and she was asked to review them and sign, whatever. And it was presented to her more than once, and even I had to remind her of it. But for some strange reason, she did not want to sign it either. I was, to this day, I'm thinking, could it be that she was thinking that she doesn't want to even entertain the idea that she will not make it. And also, another thing is that it just makes you more, it becomes more real that it is a possibility that something unfavorable would happen. And so of course she never signed it. And during the process that she was in the ICU for 3 months, I had to make the decisions on certain procedures. And it's almost very, very uncomfortable for somebody like me who's practically a newlywed to have to make those decisions, because now I felt like her life depended on me, whether she survived or not. And I didn't want to be blamed, of course, for any decisions that I may be making. And so for the most part, I had to involve her family, which is, she had a lot of siblings as well. But what I'm saying is that what you're doing right now is helping people like me be spared from loved ones, basically family members, be spared from having to make tough decisions, right? Because that includes as part of the planning. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole thing is putting your family in just uncomfortable positions. And so even in what you just said, that could have been even more uncomfortable if you thought one way would be preferable. And then maybe one of the other family members said, oh no, we're not doing that. And then there's this argument that goes back and forth. I mean, there's a long-standing case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, that Terry Schiavo case.
Yes.
For 15 years, they kept her on life support. Her actual family, like her parents, wanted to keep her on, and her husband said, oh no, she definitely would not want this, and we've talked about it and all that, but they didn't have anything in writing. And so there in was a 15-year battle, and it really just robbed those two families of the rest of, their time, right? 15 years is a long time to be in a battle like that and not be able to move on.
I'm even thinking of the financial
Mhm.
drain, like that everybody has to go through. Not that you want them to go, but then again, if we just know exactly what the patient or the person wants, then it will be a lot easier for us to make decisions. In your case, you've been doing this for a couple of years now. What is the common thread that you're seeing that people are experiencing as far as the challenges that they're having in terms of preparing for a medical catastrophe or death?
I think the number one thing is just having the conversation. People are still just hesitant or unwilling to talk about it. And so I think that just having shows like this, Furley, are really incredible, because what it does is it plants seeds in people's minds. And so even though they might think, yeah, no, I'm not going to go there, I'm not going to talk about it, I'm uncomfortable, we can put this little seed of reasoning in there to say, look, yeah, it is uncomfortable, but if it's uncomfortable for you, how uncomfortable are these decisions going to be for your loved ones who are going to have to be put on the spot? And they really don't know what your thoughts are on topics, right? They don't know if you want to be kept alive for any means possible, or if you would say, hey, if I'm not going to be able to survive without being hooked up to machines, I'm not interested, because what kind of life would I have? And that's not me, right? I like to be active and this and that. So, and then other people would maybe say, don't even resuscitate, right? A DNR. And other people would say, yeah, do everything you possibly can. I want to be around as long as I possibly can. I have reasons to be here. So, and I think like with Alec Trebek too, you say, he had just a deep drive to stay alive. I mean, he shared it with the world, what was going on with him, which was really courageous. And that probably gave him more motivation to stick around a little bit longer. But the reality is we all get to be born and we all get to go someday. And so with that being said, why is it not just natural that we would want to be prepared when we go? Our parents prepare for us to be born. They get us a crib, they get us a car seat, they get us diapers, they get it. You know what I'm saying? You don't come in the world and have like nothing ready. So it just makes sense to me that if you do have it all together, then you've just made it so much easier for your family and your loved ones to be able to get over it. They're never going to get quite over it, but they're not going to have to get sucked into it in a way that's very, they could have resentment around it. They could start to like really hate you. And you're not even here because you've done things that have caused them great grief beyond the emotional pain of losing you. It's bad. I mean, some of the family fights, that I've heard of, and I'm sure you have as well. I mean, it can't live too long without knowing that there are families that don't speak to each other because, the mother died or the father died or something happened and they fought over assets or they fought over things. And I don't think that's what any of our parents would have wanted for us, to know that we weren't prepared, that we weren't holding each other up, but being nasty and in a lot of cases just totally not even speaking or knowing even where the other person lives anymore because they just are so estranged.
Oh my God. That I know many cases, and I could actually relate that to that what you're talking about. Like, very sadly enough, is that I've spoken with many family law attorneys, and they say that there have been many family conflicts that basically stemmed from lack of conversation and lack of planning. You know, even listening to you right now, I remember even in life insurance, I remember them talking about like, I think that came the birthplace of living benefits, because when people think about life insurance, they don't want to really talk about it because they know that typically something has to happen before you could cash in on the life insurance policy, and that is somebody has to pass on. However, things have changed now, and now we also have living benefits. That means this is the kind of life insurance you don't have to die to use, and this basically spares so many families from having to go deep into financial hardship or even stress when somebody gets very ill because they don't know where to get the finances to pay for the medical bills or even to pay for care. For example, if they end up being disabled and have to stay home, who takes on the burden of that? And that's the whole beauty of the life insurance with living benefits also has provided. And that's what I'm so very, very passionate about. And in conjunction with what you're doing, I said, oh my goodness, this is going to really be able to relieve people of so much stress and and chaos and confusion.
That's right.
I'd love to know, like, say, for example, talk to us about the course that you have. I'd love for you to address the podcast, how it actually helps people. And at the same time, I would love for you to talk about your course and how it could actually help people prepare for times like the inevitable, so to speak.
Yeah. So the podcast is really designed for, again, that seed, placing those seeds. The seeds are going to get there and you're going to start thinking about it, and it'll come. You know what it is when you like a certain car or you like a certain thing, and all of a sudden you see it everywhere. When we plant this little seed in your mind, all of a sudden you're going to see evidence of how what we're saying is the truth. Everybody has.
They call that reticular activation. I just learned that recently. I said, oh, okay. All right.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we all know this anyway. There's lots of things that we know. We know we should exercise. We know we should sleep, so many hours. We know we should drink water. We know these things. And even in my own illness, I knew that I should go see a holistic nutritionist, right? Because everybody told me that's what I should do. And I knew it. And I knew that just taking medicine wasn't going to be the answer. And all doctors want to do is give you a prescription. So eventually I did it. And it's really what got me better and got me back on track. So just to say, everybody knows what's right. It's just sometimes takes a little bit more to get you to actually do it. So what the podcast is really designed to do is to give you real life examples of other people that didn't do it right, so that you can experience what happened and you don't have to put your own family through that very mess. And you would say after that happened, you're like, oh man, I don't want to be that person. I definitely don't want my kids to have to go through that. So what is going to be the answer is I have to do these things. And that's then why I put the course together. So it's called Got It Together. The first course, and there's going to be 3, but the first is Emergency Info File. I just kept coming up with this. It's emergency info file. When there's an emergency, you're going to have everything in this file. And even if there's a disaster, there's an earthquake, there's a flood, there's a fire, this file would be what you would grab because it's going to have all your important things in it. But you're also going to have the conversation. So with the file without the conversations is not complete, because if you have an investment or a life insurance or a safe deposit box or an idea of a wish, but you never tell anybody, it's not going to be very valuable when things are in chaos, right? You're in the emergency room, you're having open heart surgery. What do we do? What would he want? What would she want? If you've never had the conversation, nobody really knows, and they're not well prepared, right? They're just more stressed out. So the course Emergency Info File is 7 modules, and it starts off with the estate planning. And I believe that's once you get through that section, that module, you have done a lot, but you haven't done it all. So sometimes people say, well, I already have my will, I already have my trust, I'm good, I have my healthcare directive, I'm good, I don't really need your course. And I would have to say you need to look in the course and decide after you took the course that you didn't need the course. And I don't think anybody does, because there are things you've never thought about. As I'm doing it myself and putting everything together, it's like, oh, never thought of that. And I have people inputting.
What would something, there's a lot of people who say like, oh, I already have, just like what you said, I already have my advanced directive will and trust and all that. So what else could they be overlooking that your course, has
Well,
that we,
and each section goes through a lot of different scenarios. But I mean, even when you just look at beneficiaries listed on your investments or your insurance or even your checking and savings account, a lot of people don't know you can go down to your bank and add a transfer on death or a POD or a TOD on your accounts. And that's like having a beneficiary. You don't want to necessarily add them on as a co-owner of your account, right? Because that could cause problems. If they're the reason why you don't want to do that, just to say, you don't want to put your kids or on your savings accounts and your CDs and your checking account because they could get in trouble with the IRS. They could get sued. They could get in a car accident and be sued. They could decide to just take it, and they could. It's just as much theirs as yours. Bad things happen when you do that. So you don't do that. What you do is you make them a beneficiary. And so when you were to pass away, they would have access to the funds. This is one simple little thing that people don't know. And I know even when I got around to doing it, it was like it was on my list of things to do and I never did it. And then I didn't do it. And I finally went and did it. And it was really easy. It's just doing it, getting down to the bank and doing it. And they all have different rules. Like some just need their name and their phone number and maybe their birthday. And I had another one that wanted like everything. They wanted their social. And I think I even had to bring my husband in on one of them to sign on something. I'm not exactly sure. It's been a long time now, but so that's one thing. Beneficiaries is a huge problem. If they're not current. So many stories of not current ones. So that's one. Another huge one, and it's really a sad scenario, but it's so true. Pets. So many of our pets end up at the shelter and they end up euthanized. And just because we had a health issue or passed away or something happened to us, we could no longer care for ourselves. And then the pets, or think about it. You get in a fatal car crash or something, and you've got animals at home and nobody's there to just pick them up because you didn't make arrangements in advance. It's like, so if you have animals, make those arrangements like, hey, if something happens to me, would you take my pets? I mean, that's your very first line of agreement. There's much more detailed agreements that you can come up with. But on the very first level, it's like, hey, if something happened to me, would you take my animals? I always send those.
You put in writing, or
you could, definitely have in writing, and you do put it in writing, even if it's just on a paper that says, so and so has agreed that they'll take my animal. If it's your daughter or your son or something, so and so has agreed they'll take them. But you want to have that with your important documents as well, because when people come in. If it's a friend, it just depends. There's so many things that could happen, right? It could be super, super chaotic. I'm thinking of something like a gunshot wound or something like that, where there's just chaos and there's just pandemonium. And then the animals actually could get loose and get nobody knows, and they leave the door open or something, just things happen. So
one of my co-hosts for my other podcast called The D Word is a divorce attorney, Carolina Denhard, and I remember she's saying that she's actually handling some divorce cases related to pets because like people are fighting over them. But then again, that is a very interesting point that you also said, like what happens if somebody somebody passes on, who takes the kids, and you know what, that's so sad when you told me that they end up getting euthanized because nobody wants them, and don't they just go to the shelter automatically?
Well, if nobody comes and gets them, that's where they take them. But many pets don't get out of the shelter because they're not the cute puppies, and they're most of the time they're older animals, and a lot of times they're pretty set in their ways because, they've been with their owner for so long and they don't do well with other animals, or they don't do well with kids, or how it is. There's certain things like you wouldn't want your animal to, like I have this little min pin now, and I noticed she's really protective. She's only 1 year old, but she's even like showing her teeth if anybody comes up near me. And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of scary. I don't know who's going to take this dog. I better outlive my dog.
So with your course, is it like online? How does it work? Like, do they buy it and then take it home? Is it all printed paper, or is that something that is done online, or is there a live training that you do as part of it?
Yeah, so it's in beta right now. So the beta meaning that it's in the testing group phase of it to make sure that it's flowing properly and that people understand it and it's doable and all that. So we're right in beta. I have a wait list right now for people to get on it. It is going to be online. It is going to be modular. So you go at your own pace. It has check-in points, and it does have, we'll have some live, we'll have a Facebook group with some office hours and things like that where people can come in, and when they're getting stuck or they feel like they need to just talk it through, because sometimes it really is just talking it through, and they don't want to talk it through to the people that they are having to make decisions about. So you know what I mean? Like picking guardians for your kids is one really good example. And so many, like say you're a single parent, do yourself and your kids a favor and listen to what we're talking about here, because if you don't have a guardian named in your will, and God forbid something happens to you where you cannot take care of your child any longer, what's going to happen? The courts are going to decide, and it may not be the decision that you would want. So this is really just adding insult to injury for your child if they should lose you, that you haven't made those kinds of arrangements so that they're well taken care of. One of the other things when we talk about beneficiaries, people that list their children as beneficiaries, they're not going to see that money till they're 18 or 21, depending on what state you're in. So that is not going to work, because that money would be for their health and welfare. And if you're going to, have somebody else care for them, they're going to need money to care for them. So there's so many things that this course is going to teach you. You are just going to be so much smarter. And I really appreciate the way that most adults are today, is that they're willing to self-educate, right? You don't learn this stuff in school. You just don't. So you have to reach out. You have to take courses. You have to take the time. I know it's long days at work. And now with everybody being home, it's like you don't even get away from home. It's like you're 24/7 on, right? It's just, you got kids at home. It's a different environment. But there are certain things that if you don't take care of them, they will come back to haunt. And you might not know, but they will haunt those people that you love the most.
And funny how you say that, I'm smiling because there's one line also in life insurance that they use. Life insurance is love. What you're doing is love. Because just imagine what you're actually doing is sparing your loved ones from conflict, from confusion, from overwhelm, from frustration. So even when you're no longer there, the fact that you've taken care of those things so that they don't have to worry about having to dig where, and make decisions that are hard to make, because you have already made it easy for them to do that. So that is really, really pure love,
I
for.
believe, yeah. In fact, on my website, I think my quote is the most precious gift you can give to your family is the gift of planning.
That's beautiful. Planning, the peace of mind, like, oh my goodness, that is really very, very impactful. Would you like to share with the audience, like, say for example, for somebody who, I know that your course is in beta right now. So if you were to give 3 tips for, for people listening right now on planning, getting your stuff together, what very easy tips that they can implement right now to get their stuff in order?
Well, I wish I had just 3 things that they could do, because I have 7 modules. So, and each module has so many lessons. And so it's a little bit more than that. But I think I always tell people, number one is just start talking about it. You might want to even say, hey, I was listening to this live stream today, and they were talking about being prepared. If all you start doing is talking about it, then it won't be so yucky, and you might not feel so strange about it. You kind of get other people's opinions about it, and some people will be like, oh yeah, we've done everything already, we're good. And then other people will be like, yeah, I know, I really need to do that. It's one of those things that when something happens to somebody else, you have that little voice in your head that's saying, yeah, I'm not ready. I hope, I really feel bad for them. I hope they were more prepared than I am, or I would be if that happened to me today. So it's about just starting the conversation, talking about it, and and really, look, you could do all this stuff yourself. You can go online, you can buy workbooks, you can download articles, you can do it all yourself. And if you're that person, then do it. Do it, do it, do it. But I find that most people, if they're like me, I was a really good student. I like to have a regimen. I like to have something that I can follow. I like to have other people doing it along with me. I just love I love that whole thing. So that's why I did the course, but I'm not saying you can't do it on your own. And if you feel like you can get started, today's the best day to get started.
And
But there's
very comprehensive. The fact that, like you're just touching upon just a few very obvious things. There are many other things that you may overlook or may not even have thought of that, oh my goodness, until that moment came and it's like, my goodness, why did I not think about that?
another one that somebody brought up to me, because it's not in my life. I don't know about this, but so this is something that might um, be of interest to other people, is people that own guns. There's rules around guns. Like, you can't just will your gun to any old person, right? Or your guns get left behind, or guns that are collector guns versus actually real guns. And that's a whole nother topic, but it's just one that most people never really took a thought to. Like, they have their guns and they've got them registered, or they don't, or whatever, but they don't really realize when they're gone, what's going to happen to their guns. And it could end up causing a loved one to create a felony because they have the gun in their possession in a state that doesn't allow that type of gun or whatever. There's all these rules.
Oh my
So,
goodness. Actually, that is an excellent point. For this amount of time that we've been together, you have already basically planted so many seeds in our brains, thinking like, oh my gosh, I never thought of, the the smallest things. Like like the heirlooms are really more obvious, but things like that you were saying, like you don't think right away about pets, about your guns, or your other decisions that may impact whether you live or die, or what happens to your estate when you pass on. So, Stacy, how do they get a hold of you, and how do they get, first of all, if they want to be on your podcast and they want to share their story, how do they get hold of you? And if they want to enroll and be on the waiting list for your course,
yes.
how do they connect with you?
Okay, so I have a wait list right now, and if you're anywhere where you can pull out your phone, or if you're not watching this on your phone, the phone, write down this phone number. Are you going to have you'll have it on the replay?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 714-709-2027. And if you just text the word waitlist, one word, WAITLIST, then you will be put on the wait list. And then you'll get an automatic text message back that says, we've added you to the wait list. But not only that, here's a link to get a free healthcare directive. And it's a great opportunity to get that started. If you can get that going, you've got the first big piece of your estate planning done. And this one is it's an excellent one. It's free. It's being funded by doctors and hospitals all across the country, and they are doing the funding of it because it is so beneficial. If somebody comes in and they've already done this, it just saves so much time and money for everybody, right? Because it's obvious what you want done. So it goes through the it's the living will and the health proxy. So basically, it's like, do you want to if something was like a life-threatening thing, should we take them through this surgery that may or may not, the surgery itself may kill them, right? But if we don't do the surgery, they're for sure going to die, kind of thing. Should we do the surgery? To if you have Alzheimer's and you can't make decisions for yourself, end of lifetime terminal illness decisions, it's all of it. And you can do videos and upload them. You can also store other documents in the cloud with this company, and everything's for free. So it's great.
Wow. What a generous gift it is. Like, I am sure you're going to be having a lot of dinner conversations right now regarding this, especially if you have elderly, parents. And, I love what you're saying about having the conversation now. Make sure that you plan. And also at the same time, I love the fact that you also have like many, many, many years of experience in financial planning. So you are able to integrate all of the wisdom that you have regarding financial planning into what you're doing right now. My God, that is really, truly a blessing. So we're going to put on the chat the phone number and the gift and the code that you're going to be giving you that you have given to our audience. And so I invite every single one of you to definitely check it out. Claim your gift because that is a great way to start and be on the wait list because and don't wait till it's too late for you to start planning. Like what's that quote about like lack of planning on your part does not constitute emergency on my part. Uh, yeah, because so often times like, oh, because you did not plan, now everybody is like in a state of chaos and emergency. So don't do that to your loved ones. So just like what Stacey said, basically one of the best gifts you can give is the gift of planning. So on that note, this has been an incredible, incredible life changing show because I'm sure so many people will realize how important it is to plan for your future, for medical catastrophes, and also for when we pass on. Okay. Thank you so very much, Stacey, for sharing your wit and wisdom and your beautiful heart and sharing that amazing gift as well to our audience. Um,
Thank you, Shirley. It's been a pleasure. I wish we could probably spend 2 hours and we would still have things to talk about. So let's
Exactly.
do this
You know what?
again.
We can do this again. Why not? Right? Because when you have your beta all approved and ready to launch, I'd like to for you to come back again and let's talk about other things that people are talking about that's happening out there in the world. Okay, so you don't have to be caught. Like don't let the rug get pulled from under you. And so you're the more prepared you are, the better armored you are to face all of these challenges that you will be facing. You will find that you will be more at peace. So this is your host, Furley Almonte on Faces of Resilience. I hope that you have found great value in what Stacey Golden Lisnock has shared with us. And I hope that you visit her website. Also call her up, go on a wait list. And please, please share this podcast with your other family members because this definitely is life changing. Until then, this is Furley Almonte. Take care of yourself always. Live life fully and gratefully. Bye bye.
Bye.